you ever wondered why like old people like seem to have such trouble with technology?
I think it's maddening for one.
Well, yeah,
But
they're not like stupid. Like they're the same species. Like they're not like dumb and we're smart.
yeah,
That's the thing that's weird about it. But it's like
they were able to raise families and have good jobs and
they
like pay
they defeated
taxes and
Hitler.
stuff. Yeah, they defeated Hitler, but when you put a smartphone in them and ask them to like, hey, open up this website, and their eyes explode out of their head.
Like they weren't raised with it. Right. We had it from a young. I think that technology takes a certain form of logic to understand. It's a very straightforward predicate logic. If this, then this. If this, then this. Right.
Yeah.
Computers just run on that logic. And like, I think that logic is ingrained into older generations. I think there's a more emotional logic. It sounds like I'm insulting them like they can't figure out basic logic strains, and I don't think that's the case, but it's like I can look at any technology without knowing about it and at least learn some basic functionality of it. I can just understand what the computer thinks, how a computer thinks, and just start to figure it out. Like, well, if this is this and this is true, like that's just basic logic. But it's like my mom, who's super smart and like an aggressive salesperson, like can't figure out something that you just point at and be like, dude, just hit that button. So the button that says work, just hit the work button.
Yeah. And I notice a lot of older folks, even though they're well acclimated to technology at this point, because it's 2022 and cell phones, smartphones have been around a pretty long time, right? 15 years, 17 years since what, 05 is? I don't, if no one showed me a guitar right now, I start playing it in 15 years, I'm going to be really good at that guitar. Yeah. Why? For some reason, even though this technology's been around for at least 15 years, are older people still having these struggles?
Well, that's
because
right.
if you look at people who've had phones for a long time, they're still looking at them like, what?
Yeah.
My screen disappeared. What do I do? Like, you know what I'm saying? They don't get better at it.
I think there's a stubbornness involved because you're right. I work in IT, and so sometimes the older folks they didn't need it for the first half of their life, so they like have a refusal to get better at it. And it's like if you don't work with technology, who gives a shit? But it's like these people, their whole lives revolve around it in their job.
Well, I think older people don't need it to function, where we have somehow found ourselves in situations where like we have it. Like I was working out this morning. And I have an interval timer, and I feel like in my head I can't complete an exercise until the screen turns red because it's
what timer?
Interval. It's a timer. Intervals.
Yeah. Interval timer.
Interval. Is that what I'm saying?
Interval. Right.
Yeah. What you said.
Okay.
Timer.
Yeah. Okay.
And I feel like there's a lot of things I can't do without that. Like, dude, I can't.
Why? What does it do? It just times your sets?
Yeah, just like it's 45 seconds.
Okay, yeah.
And then it rests for 30 seconds. And I feel in my head that I won't do it right but it's an app on a phone.
Yeah.
I have to initiate the app. And then another thing is I have to have an app for sound. So like I'm in the bathroom taking a shower. I got to listen to a podcast or something. I have to have sound in the background. I have to listen to some guy talking about Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Like all these things that exist within that phone, these things that they do. I feel that I can't function properly. And a guy who's in his 60s is like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
Just take a shower, you idiot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I'm not 60 and I don't do any of that shit.
Okay, well maybe I'm just stupid then.
You're a piece of shit. That's what it is.
That might be.
You're right that like the opposite side of that is this thing. Where like I see people that just can't not do this like all the fucking time, like endlessly just staring at their palms.
Well, I was at soccer practice with my daughter a couple weeks ago. What I was watching was people walking across the field to get to their destinations with their phone like this, and they're walking.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what are they watching on their phone? That it's like you can't even get out of your car and walk to a spot without. Right. Go to like a mall, go into the city and watch people walking from their car to a restaurant. They're doing. I was in Chicago not too long ago, I was at an intersection and there were people walking across the street and they were not looking, they were doing this while they were walking across crosswalks and their eyes were not deviating from the screen. It far exceeds my addiction to it.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends whom I love, but it's like, I can't watch a movie with them because I look over and they're literally, they can't sit down for 2 hours and not fucking stare at that fucking thing and scroll.
But they designed it that way. They've tapped into those.
It's totally intentional.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, it's like, I think Sam Harris talks about when he was young, he went on some retreat into some mountainous region where there was like 16 days or something just in the mountains. And it was fucking horrible. He hated every second of it. He's completely bored. And when he came down, the other people were describing it as transformative and they were talking about like how amazing it was. And he couldn't at all figure out how the hell they could think it was anything but boring as fuck. And it's because he was too young and immature and he just didn't realize the power of just being able to be quiet and alone and in the moment, right? So the cell phone gives you the distraction that never ends. Like you can always see another post, you can always see another thing. There's always something else for you
Dopamine,
to be
man.
distracted. Yeah, to get that hit. Boom, 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 boom. And now, you know, he's like an avid meditator. He teaches a meditation app. I use the app. I try to practice presence where it's like, hey, I'm just sitting here and I'm in this moment. And I don't need a screen. I don't need a distraction. Like being alone with yourself shouldn't be hard to do. And I think that's the negative side of technology. I'm sure old people can sit there and stare off into space and it's great. And the downside is they seem to refuse to be able to even, like there has to be a middle ground where you can not be addicted, but you also like understand the basic fucking functions of a cell phone.
How the wiring has occurred in your brain. They just don't see the benefit of it. And that's good. I wish I had that. I wish I can go out in my building and work on stuff. And like working on the truck the other night, I'm laying on the ground and I was listening to a podcast. I had to have sound in the background. Like, why can't I just go out there in silence and turn a wrench?
Yeah.
I think it's just how you're wired, man.
Thing, like obviously here we recommend listening to podcasts, but
yeah,
I don't think that's bad. Like it's different than like walking across the street and not getting hit by a car. Like that's a different thing than staring at your phone all the time, not being able to sit and watch a movie. Like that's a problem, man. That's a true addiction.
I get a little bit of that. And there are times when I'll come home and I'll try to be mindful of how much I have that thing in my hand. And a lot of times I'll put it up, like maybe in another room, and I'll try my hardest to not mess with the phone. And dude, I fight myself.
I think they make apps that like shut shit down.
Screen time and all that stuff. But it's hard, man. I don't know if it's a help to us or a detriment. There's a lot of things that
it's a help. I think it's a net positive, but the human species isn't ready and we make it a negative. Like
we mess anything up.
That stupid little square has the collective knowledge of all humankind in it. Yeah. That it fits in your pocket.
Yeah.
Like, that's a benefit. The problem is we've allowed companies and like marketing to like take advantage of our addictive nature. I feel like we're no longer consumers, or we're not viewed by the big social media companies as consumers. We're a product solely. Like they don't work for us. Facebook, Instagram, things we're all on aren't for us. They're for advertisers. Like we are the product. They sell your data. And I feel like that's sort of how the internet is. Like every site, everything can be free now. Like everything can be free. But the reason it's free is because we are no longer the consumer. We're no longer the person that they want to attract. We are the product. They're using us, just the average person, to attract advertisers to pay them money, or people who want to data mine us to use us for advertising. I feel like the internet and advertising and social media as a whole has violated our privacy massively, but it's done it solely because, Facebook doesn't care about you. Instagram, YouTube, none of it cares about the average person. They care about you the way that a a butcher cares about a really nice cut of steak, right? It's something to sell to the person he actually cares about, which is the customer. And in this case is the advertising company.